Well, let's talk about psychic development circles in today's video. And if you don't know what they are, they're a small group of people who meet with the purpose and the intention of developing their psychic abilities. Now, in my opinion, they can be instrumental in our growth, our skill development, and our confidence as psychics and mediums. Now, I have sat in a few over my time and I've led many of them as well. So here are my top tips for finding and maybe even starting a psychic development circle for yourself. So first things first, what type of circle are you wanting? Now there are many different types of circles, and here are just a few. So first off, open or closed, and this really is kind of a fundamental question to ask or to answer. So whether you're looking for a circle or starting one of your own. So an open circle means that anyone can join and they don't have to commit to attending regularly. Now, I've sat and ran many open circles, and they're a great way to start, but there are a few downsides. So first off, people will come and go, so there's no stability in the circle, and it's really hard to build up the energy and the trust when there are new people joining or dropping out constantly. Also, if you're starting your own circle with a group of friends, you might want to kind of keep it small, maybe manageable, with a process for bringing in new members. That said, I did start out sitting in an open circle for a year, and it was very, very helpful at the time. Now, a closed circle means that there are a small number of people who sit regularly together. They commit to attending consistently, and they prioritize their attendance to be there over and above anything else. New members are not usually allowed unless the group desires it, and there's an agreed upon process on how new members are proposed by members, how decisions are made, and how they're brought in. Now, when you're sitting in a well-run closed circle with fully present members, the experience can be truly life-changing. And a few closed circles that I've sat in have been that for me. Now, there are a few things that get in the way of a successful circle, whether it's open or it's closed. And here are the ones that I've experienced most prevalently. So first off, group dynamics. Well, you know, we're all human, and despite being engaged in a more spiritual endeavour, we can be prone to engaging in ego-driven behaviours. So things like jealousy, you know, there'll always be somebody who's clearer, stronger, more articulate than you. Get over it. So just as you're looking at somebody with maybe some jealous eyes, there's somebody looking at you with equally jealous eyes. And jealousy creates a resistance in your vibration, which will get in the way of the very thing that you want the most, a clear connection with spirit. And then there's the know-it-alls. Well, these are the people who know and have done everything. And, well, this is probably the most important thing about them. They're not willing to accept there might be another way of doing the things that you want to do. There is one way, and if you beg to differ from their way, they can get hurt, angry, they can get kind of bullying and shaming. And I have come to learn that whilst we get shaped by our experiences and form conclusions based on what feels right to us, it really isn't a fact nor an absolute. It's just an opinion. Yes, it might be based on good evidence and our experience, but we really need to be willing to accept that there is a different perspective, there is a different way, especially when we're given new evidence. What happens when we're unwilling to change is that we become closed, closed-minded and rigid, and this is a state of being that will not serve you well. And then there's domineering personalities. So when I talk about domineering personalities, I'm not talking about the leadership. You know, a circle does need a good leader for sure. But what I'm talking about are people who are forceful, They like the sound of their own voice, and they don't let anybody else get a word in edgeways or even have their own experiences or opinion. Now, I'm sure that you've all experienced people like these that I've just described, and it can have a negative impact on how the circle runs. Another issue is commitment. So some people sitting in circle, well, they need to attend regularly. And yes, we all know that life gets in the way sometimes, and we might miss the odd one or two gatherings. But I'm talking about those people who attend sporadically. One of the important things about a circle and what makes it so great is the commitment demonstrated to each circle member and to spirit. So when I say demonstrated, I mean demonstrated by turning up regularly and being present and fully invested in the process. Now, I can't stress enough how important this is. Now, some circles even go as far as to have members sit in the same place every week to ensure that the connection and the energy felt is the same. Having one member missing has a huge impact. Now, I'm sure that you recognize people like this, but I also want you to think honestly about the things that I've just talked about and reflect on whether these are behaviors that maybe you might be prone to or engage in. As I said before, there are times when I've dropped into one or two of them, and they are as destructive to ourselves as to the health of the circle. So let's look at some other things that you want to consider if you're going to join a circle to ensure that the one that you're joining is the right one for you, but also really good things to consider before you start your own circle if that's something that you're interested in. So we talked about open or close. That's got to be the first consideration. But then a good thing to consider is, what is the purpose of the circle? Now, I've sat in so many different types, so from general psychic development to mediumship, spirit rescue, direct voice, and physical mediumship. Now, if you're looking for a circle, these are the things that you should be thinking about based on what you want to develop for yourself. And if you're starting a circle, you might have an idea of what you want, but what do the other circle members want as well? And so discuss this at the start of the first meeting and find an alignment with the desires, the needs, and the wants of everybody. So the next thing to do is think about the process and structure of the circle. So how regularly will you be meeting? If you can meet weekly, that's wonderful, and the growth and learning is significant. But is it realistic? Be honest about what you can commit to. Maybe think about once every other week if meeting more regularly is not an option. I think monthly is probably not regular enough, but it's better than nothing. Now, if you're starting a closed circle, think about if you're going to accept new members and what the process is for this to happen. Now, if you're looking for a closed circle to join, it is pretty difficult. So usually they're by invitation only. That's how I got into all of my closed circles. But there's no harm in putting out your feelers into your community to see if there are any around and about, and finding out what their process is for accepting new members. And then there's the length of time the circle sits. Now, I'd say 2 hours at the maximum, which includes kind of a catching up at the start and a debrief over a cup of tea at the end. But that part isn't mandatory. The cup of tea, I mean. Now, you really only want to be in development for about 1.5 hours maximum. Decide what day is the best to meet and stick to it. And if you're starting a circle, think about the structure of it. Now, I've found it's really good to have a regular flow, like chat and catch up before you sit, an opening intention and meditation, and then your development activities before you debrief and you close down. And as I say, it's always nice to have a cup of tea. Now, think about how many people you want in the circle. I really wouldn't worry about a minimum number, but you really need to pay attention to the maximum number. Too many and it's not manageable. I'd suggest, 9 maybe is your maximum, but that will be guided by the confines of the space that you're going to be sitting in, of course. And if you're looking to join a circle, find out what their usual numbers are, as it might make a big difference in your decision whether to join or not. My first open circle at the Spiritualist Church regularly had 30 to 50 people, which was a lot energetically, and it took a lot of time for everybody to debrief the various exercises and experiences. Again, if you're starting your own circle, think about where you'll meet. Is it in somebody's home? And if it is, are they okay with connecting to spirit in there? Some people aren't and get freaked out when everybody has left, especially if the spirit activity has been intense. So if you're looking to book an external venue to meet in, please do let them know what your intended use is, what you're planning to do, because some people don't feel the same way about this type of activity as we do. And I think it's extremely important to be upfront and honest. And this is an aspect about ethics that's really important to me. So let's talk about the leadership of the circle. So I think this is probably one of the most important things to have. You need somebody who takes the lead. Now, I've sat in circles where the leadership is shared, and to be honest, none of them have worked. The circles in my experience that have worked for me are the ones where there is somebody who is the designated leader, and they're usually somebody who's strong in mediumship or something else. But the most important point is that there is a leader. And then create some ground rules with circle members, maybe by spending some time at the first meeting talking about what you want to see in the kind of the terms of behaviours of circle members. And once you have them, don't just forget about them. Schedule in some, kind of a regular process of review to see what is working and what isn't working. And don't be afraid to change them if really they're not supporting what you're trying to achieve together. And you can include things like confidentiality. People often forget about this, but it's really important. Finding out what can be shared and what can't be shared outside of the group. And then there's listening, and I know that sounds really silly, that we have to set a ground rule to listen, but we do, as it's something that many of us don't do very well. Very often we need to intentionally create space to listen to members, giving our undivided attention to them when it's their turn to share their experiences. And we really need to honour people's experiences and demonstrate that we value their contribution by not talking over them or by being kind of dismissive or absent in the conversation. Now, honesty is another one that we forget about. And I think that being honest is another way that we demonstrate our commitment to the circle, to our fellow members, and to spirit. And this can include things like us voicing our feelings, our challenges, our difficulties, or even taking responsibility for addressing an issue with another group member, maybe instead of disengaging or talking behind their back. Now, safety is another topic worthy of discussion. What needs to be in place for somebody to feel and to be safe to participate? Whether that be in relation to the activities that you're planning to do or the sharing of experiences. And now don't forget to have fun. Yes, this is a serious business, but a bit of humour in the process, well, I found it raises the vibrations and it clears out any stuck energy. And then finally, practice. Development is a journey and not a destination. Even the most experienced psychic or medium still needs to practice. You may see that improvement in your skills happen quickly and then they plateau for a while. And this can be really frustrating, but don't worry about that. This is an important integration time before you get kind of the next growth spurt. But don't give up if you feel that you're not progressing. Shake it off, mix it up and keep going. And my final tip is to keep a development journal. These are great ways to reflect as well as note your progress. Now, I hope that you enjoyed this video and found some nuggets to help you to find or to set up a successful psychic development circle. And if you have a question, please do pop it in the comments below or email me. And if you have any tips about sitting in circles or starting a circle, please do share them below. Ta-ta for now.